Fandom wars, let's talk about it. To explain what they are, it's about the stupidest thing you can possibly imagine, where people will spend hours of their lives actively saying how the thing they love is so much better than whatever is competing against it, where any justification is valid so long as the bad fandom is seen as lesser than the good fandom. It's stupid, but fandom wars have become so commonplace to where this shit is starting to feel like Gen Z gang violence. Some people will deadass look at a person and go, ew, they're a My Hero Academia fan, they must be stupid. And I mean, yeah, and that's understandable, but some people take it too far. To the point where if you say you like, let's say, Wuthering Waves, you will actively have fans of Genshin shit-talking you for that opinion, as the two games are competitors. And the same applies for the opposite as well. Now, I'm not saying every person in a fandom is doing this. Honestly, I'd say in the majority of fandoms, 95% of people in them are chill. It's just the 5% that spend 16 hours on Twitter that make the fandom seem more hostile than it is. But even with that being said, I'd say that fandom wars are so easy to see nowadays. I remember in the past, the only ones you'd really hear about were PlayStation and Xbox, Call of Duty and Battlefield, somewhat Saints Row against GTA, back when Saints Row had the writers actually sober when making the plot, and going even further back, you'd see Nintendo vs Sega, which produced this drug trip of an ad until Nintendo had enough money to 10x Sega's entire net profit. But nowadays you got Palworld and Pokemon, shit, any anime being ripped into a war against the Full Metal Alchemist fandom the second they hit #1 on Mal, and the video game equivalent being the wars made whenever two popular games are in the same category for the Game Awards. There's also Genshin vs Tower of Fantasy, Genshin against Wuthering Waves, Genshin against fucking Sonic? What the hell? Regardless, the point is people in fandoms are starting to view enjoying a piece of media as the equivalent to being in a cult. Because some of these people will become a martyr before daring to touch a competitor to the thing they love. In the past, fandom wars were more rare, but nowadays I feel like we see one springing up every other month. And that is why I am here, to talk about all the stupidest fandom wars I have seen, and to say why people engage in them. Spoiler alert, all of these are some stupid ass situations, but some pretty damn funny ones have happened, like Palworld vs Pokemon. In that war, you had so many Pokemon fans shitting on the game because it was described as the better Pokemon. Now, somehow, people took that as a personal blow and were outraged by the game's very existence, despite being somehow as calm as a Buddhist monk when it came to dealing with Scarlet and Violet's, interesting launch. I understand not liking Palworld and simply not wanting to play it or stating out where you think the game falters. That's criticism, and I feel like more people should be giving out honest criticism about things they're interested in. Or, if you aren't interested in something, detailing criticisms of where it's kinda ass is nice to see. But what I don't like is when people make up stuff about the games they dislike in an attempt to criticize it by just lying, which we saw in abundance when it came to Palworld. A bit after its release, people were springing up saying how the designs in the game were made using AI, and their evidence towards this fact was... you just heard it. Silence. The evidence to prove the game was using AI held about as much weight as oxygen in a zero-gravity chamber. They had nothing. At most, a prior game the company made had AI as the central theme, and the CEO talked about it before. And somehow, people saw that as reason to say the game's designs were made using AI, which sparked a huge debate about the ethicality of it, despite the fact that the game just didn't use it. Which was pretty easy to see, as Steam has a policy where if you use AI in your game, you need to specifically state that fact, and Palworld didn't. Now, if you think they were somehow sneaking this by Steam, how likely do you think that a game which had millions of eyes on it and so many people talking about it possibly using AI, how likely is it that Steam somehow doesn't look into it or completely misses it, despite so much discussion about it? Listen, I know Valve is treating TF2 with the intelligence and grace of a toddler chewing on the dinner table, but you do not mean to tell me people readily believed this when the evidence was so shaky. Lest we even talk about how the game was announced before AI really became big. And when people eventually figured out how dumb it was to say the game was using AI with no evidence, you know what some shifted to? Saying that the game ripped Pokemon sprites and built their models from that. As in, they took the sprites Game Freak made and put it in their own game, just tweaking it slightly. Now, let me put this in the simplest terms possible. If they did that, the very next day after the game's release, Nintendo would have scheduled a public execution for the dev team. They have hired private investigators to look into people harming their business in any way. They made a hacker for the Switch owe them $10 million. If the game stole the designs, I'm pretty sure the CEO's family would be paying off the debt 10 generations down the line. Yet despite that being the most obvious logic, people believe this post showing how the designs were ripped from the Pokemon games. This was the sole evidence of it, and people ran with the narrative saying how it's irrefutable proof, for the person who made the post to later state how they scaled the designs to make it look more like they were ripped. Now, the reason they did this is because they were disgusted with how Palworld glorified animal abuse, and honestly, I'm not mad at them for that. If you don't like the game because of that, feel free, but helping to spin a narrative that the game is ripping assets from Satan given company form, I think is just stupid. If you don't like it for that reason, then state that and tell people why you think that way. Because if you spend this effort to lie about the game, making it look bad, when those lies are exposed, any stance you have will look 10 times worse because people will view you in a negative light due to your actions of lying. Though after the narrative that the designs were taken directly from the 3D Pokemon games was shown to be dumb, some people were saying that the game was terrible because it was a blatant ripoff of Pokemon's designs. Not a rip of them, but a rip off. There's a distinction, I swear. And whenever I heard that take, I always saw some people try to defend it, saying how they're really unique, and I'ma keep it 100. There's no defending some of these motherfuckers. Listen, people are spreading a lot of misinfo about the game, but we ain't gonna be out here acting like these are two distinct ass creatures with no inspiration being taken from one to the other. And people have brought up this image of Dragon Quest vs Pokemon to show how stupid that take is when aimed against Palworld, but I actually don't think the two are similar. Pokemon definitely takes inspiration, but it feels more so like they are designed off of these same animals with the end product being different yet similar. Meanwhile with Palworld, that shit's just Decidui, there's no two ways about it. But I don't find that much of a reason to care because I like when games take inspiration from one another. It reminds me of when Shadow of Mordor put a patent on their Nemesis system, which was a complicated gameplay mechanic that I won't dive into. But the patent meant that if other companies wanted to use it, then, long story short, they'd have to deal with Warner Brothers. And when that information came out, many people were mad as we want to see other games take inspiration from that mechanic and implement it into their own works. Here we have a situation where a game releases that takes heavy inspiration in its creature design but executes the gameplay in a completely different route. And people lost their minds about that while also being against the Nemesis system patent. To me that feels off as the energy is not the same. It exists one way but not the other. Though, to be clear, if you dislike the designs as you feel it ruins the artistic integrity within how they are incredibly similar to the Pokemon ones, I don't see anything weird with that. It makes sense. I wouldn't go so far as to say they're plagiarized within a legal capacity, but to be disappointed in seeing how some of the designs are much less than unique is incredibly understandable. I just don't like the idea of saying the game is bad because it takes inspiration from Pokemon. Now, if people didn't want to play the game because of that, it's fine. Hell, it's your time we're talking about. If you didn't want to play a game because the title of it sounds stupid, to me, that's valid. As end of the day, it's your time. You get to decide how to spend it. But when it is taken as a criticism against something, then I don't agree. As that goes from a personal perspective to saying why something should be considered bad in the perspective of others. And when that something is how a game takes inspiration from another and people try to build a whole narrative of why that makes it terrible using any misinformation they got, I really can't take your point seriously. And the diehard Nintendo fans didn't help much either with how they were all cosplaying this image. People were out here fighting on the beaches of Normandy trying to defend Nintendo's honor like they wouldn't sue people for being named Mario if they had the legal ability to. And that's the big thing with this fandom war. Hell, honestly, any fandom war really. It just feels like people blindly defending the quote-unquote side they are on and using anything they can to take down the other side, even blatant lies. Which is pathetic as hell because, end of the day, my brother in Christ, you could just not play the game. If you have a criticism to say about it, feel free, but if you're gonna just lie about the game, goddamn. Spend that time writing a job application instead. I just can't imagine being out here in the trenches waging war like this. Bro, touch grass. And this is coming from a YouTuber, so that's how you can know you fucked up. Though when it comes to both fandom wars and needing to touch grass, let's talk about Genshin Impact. So this one, yeah, this needs no introduction. If you've heard of the Genshin fandom, you've heard of the fun little things that have happened with it. Drama with the Sonic fandom, harassing the VAs of the game, annihilating Google Classroom? These are all well-known things that have come from the community. Now again, I don't think this represents the entire community as Genshin is so large so we're having some, mentally questionable individuals within it isn't precisely the most surprising thing. I would say it's more toxic than some other fandoms which are equivalent in size, but I wouldn't say everyone who plays it is as insane as all the stories that come from the fandom. But with that being said, let's talk about the most recent war which involved it. Yes, most recent, as there's been enough of these wars to make a goddamn 300 episode anime. Now when Wuthering Waves was launching, people touted it as Genshin but better. The Genshin Killer, if you so would, because the title of this video game killer has been historically the most accurate title to give out for anything. But this caused people who love Genshin to try and shit-talk Wuthering Waves in any way they possibly could. as it was simply firing back at the people who used Wuthering Waves to say how bad Genshin is. Then when Wuthering Waves finally dropped, the fans of Genshin had a fuck ton of ammo to shit talk the game. It was a massacre, I won't even hold you. All the faults of the Genshin killer were being discussed ad nauseum. The story is ass, it has more bugs than New York sewers. Running it will quickly turn your phone into a weapon of mass destruction due to the heat it generates eclipsing the surface of the sun. Its characters have the depth of a 3cm thick cardboard cutout. Walking up the stairs emulates the stepping pattern of someone who was tortured in the 9th layer of hell for 17 years. The criticisms were endless, and honestly, all of them were fair. The story was ass. 1.1 is really damn good, but it came out after the discussion was at its peak, so naturally it wasn't a talking point back then. The game was riddled with bugs, and the characters were bland. These are very valid points, which is why there's nothing wrong with giving out these criticisms. I've said many similar things about the game too, it makes sense. But the funny part is when people were saying it about Wuthering Waves and they acted as though Genshin didn't have the same faults. Like the story. I'ma just say it. The beginning story in Genshin is ass. It's mediocre at best before Inazuma, then Inazuma is the biggest piece of shit I've seen in a minute until it gets really damn good during Sumeru and from what I heard Fontaine. I'm yet to play it. But people were acting as if the beginning story of Genshin was particularly interesting. Brother, it was not. The world building was, but the story held the intrigue of watching old paint slowly chip away. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing, as long as the payoff is good, I can stomach having a boring start to a story. I mean shit, I love Persona 5, and the beginning of it feels like a drawn out fetch quest from an MMO. I also think Steins Gate is one of the best stories I've seen, but the first half of it makes people question if a padded cell would be a more interesting torture method to put themselves through. Though when people of one fandom shit talk something else as they pretend the thing they love doesn't have those same problems, then I don't view that discussion to be important. It just seems like people shit-slinging, just saying whatever they can as a fault without really thinking about what they're saying. As it's fair to say the beginning story in Wuthering Waves is boring, but to act like Genshin never had that problem is whack. Same goes with Wuthering Waves players saying how Genshin's combat was irredeemable. I kinda agree with that, the combat is as stimulating as complete brain death, but I wouldn't say it has no redeeming qualities as the team building and mechanics behind the combat are very in-depth, genuinely one of the best I've seen out of a game. Now, the rotations in the game don't precisely reflect that depth, but the simple act of team building in Genshin was always fun to me. Meanwhile, Wuthering Waves doesn't have the most interesting mechanics behind its combat, like the elemental system. It's too early to say if the team building will be dry, but mechanics-wise, there isn't too much which is unique to me. Though, all in all, the criticisms weren't a big part of the drama, especially as I saw a lot of Wuthering Wave players agreeing with the criticisms. The big part of the drama was the amount of misinformation spread about Wuthering Waves. And I'ma keep it 100 with you here, I have been researching this topic for way too long. The amount of lies has been messy as hell, and to really get into the full details, this video will probably need to be like an hour long. So in the interest of time and my sanity, I am going to give a brief look into this, and if you want to know more, let me aim you towards these videos that are in the description. They're completely focused on the topic, so if you want to know more, check them out. But to give the summary of it, basically, just imagine watching two roided out chimpanzees tearing each other apart. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but this one might as well hold the weight of a video essay with how accurate its portrayal is, as the two fandoms had the mentality of either you're with us or you're against us. That's right, I wouldn't say either side was really in the right here. Both of them had people just saying the stupidest things or outright lying. Like when people said Genshin content creators who didn't play Wuthering Waves were forced by MiHoYo to not touch the game. Which is stupid to say the least, but the reality was that they weren't under a contract. They just didn't want to play the game. This led to some Genshin CCs needing to expressly say that, as I suppose a person ain't allowed to just not touch something. Now the lie is based off of some truth, as there has been stuff coming out that shows times where a contract in which MiHoYo would grant a creator something also made it so they couldn't make content for competing games. One was a CN content creator, and speaking just in a general sense, non-competes aren't exactly rare. So it's understandable to see people think that. Labeling CCs as Hoyo slaves from them not playing a game is dumb, but it's not out of the ordinary to see stuff like that happen, so I'm not really shocked that people would think that. Though the situation got messy when this contract was leaked. That said, if the content creator accepted the agreement, they would be given the ability to play Zenless Zone Zero's closed beta. However, if a competitor gives them a sponsorship offer, then the CC needs to inform the company, and they have the rights to block the creator from the sponsorship. Now here's the thing. Despite what some people were saying, this wasn't made for MiHoYo. You see, gacha game companies will hire agencies to reach out to potential content creators and have them sponsor their games. Some of these sponsorships I've done have been through this method where I talked to an agency and signed their contract to sponsor the game they were hired to get content creators for. But this contract is different, as this agency is not just looking to establish a sponsorship offer, but instead be an agent for the content creator, where they will bring in sponsorships and do all this stuff for the creator. Now, these contracts have shit like this in it, where the creator is giving something up for what the agency will give them. I've been reached out to for stuff like this before, and they asked for 15% of my ad revenue, and then I'll be signed up to the team. Thankfully, I didn't accept that, as I'm gonna keep it 100, most of these agencies are not worth it. And this agency is looking to make their content creator mainly focus on Zenless Zone Zero and MiHoYo products. But it is not MiHoYo actually asking that of the content creator, it's just this agency being scummy. I do want to say that there are doubts if this contract is even real, but since I've seen it floating around, I did want to say that from what I see presented here, it's not made from MiHoYo, which is pretty obvious if you just read it, because the name of the company is right there. Though that didn't stop people spreading this around and saying how MiHoYo was bringing down an iron fist on Genshin creators to not play Wuthering Waves. Partially true if the CN story is to be believed, but to say they are holding every CC by the balls is dumb, especially as so many Genshin creators were actively playing Wuthering Waves. And in a similar vein, people said that MiHoYo forced its voice actors to not voice for it. Which is like, okay, here's the thing, right? The voice actors for Genshin are American. The ones for Wuthering Waves are British. The reason for this is that Wuthering Waves made the choice to hire European VAs. This is also why the voice acting sounds off, as the VAs were told to give an American accent in their speech. This is important to say because it shows the reason why Genshin VAs were not brought in for Wuthering Waves. It's because they were on a different continent. Meanwhile, we got the VA for Tsunul and Jingyuan saying this.
Would you voice in Wuthering Waves given the chance? Yes, I would love to.
So people saying the VAs were forced to not perform in Wuthering Waves were just spreading misinfo. Moving on from that, let's talk about the game's biggest controversy that only fueled the war, where in the Japanese language, the translation of a weapon did not accurately match what it did. It was better for Jian based on the mistranslation, but the actual weapon was not coded that way, so it was a waste to get it for him. So anyone who rolled for it on Jian essentially got scammed, especially anyone who wanted to max it out. The scam wasn't intentional, but that was the effect, which made a huge controversy for rather understandable reasons. In an attempt to rectify this, Kurogane made the best choice they could, which was an email sign-up to where anyone who wanted a refund for rolling on that weapon would be able to fill out the form and get it. Now, that's great. But they fucked it up. So when responding to the emails of the participants, they didn't hide the emails of the people who signed up. They were all in the CC chain, so anyone could have seen anyone else's email, which, as you could imagine, motherfuckers were not happy. As compensation, Kurogane paid 10,000 yen to anyone affected by this. It's about 100 USD. And people who hated Wuthering Waves tried to spread any screenshot possible of the Japanese player base being mad at this. And there were a couple, understandably so. But the reality was that most people had a positive outlook on it after Kurogane gave them $100 for a private email leak. However, that didn't fit the narrative, so you had people spreading the info that Kurogane is now hated in Japan. And someone went so far as to fabricate an email saying how the refunded players who have negative Astrite on their account after the refund need to buy enough to make that number positive, or you will be banned. Now, it's true that people had negative Astrite after the refund, which is about normal to see in such cases. But the lie was when the fabricated email said those who have negative Astrite will be banned if they do not pay to get a positive again. And the funny thing about that is, Punishing Gray Raven, the game Kurogane made before Wuthering Waves. You see, I played it on release, bought the monthly pass and some other pack, but due to a lot of the controversies around the game's launch, I decided to stop playing it. And due to the controversies at the time, I heard you could refund your purchase completely fine, so I did that shit as well. I refunded everything I bought. Now, upon returning to the game around 2 years from its launch, my account was completely fine. Even though I had refunded things when there really wasn't any reason to. My account was perfect, and I'm still playing on it now. To be clear, by the way, I'm not recommending it, as I think it's reasonable to ban someone scamming them with purchases. I might only have been fined because I spent like $10 in total back then, and it was a shit show. But I'm bringing it up because it's funny to see someone make a lie that they will ban players with negative currency when I have the experience of refunding stuff, and yet I was still able to play 2 years later, to then go off and completely fall in love with the game. Which just makes the idea that Kuro is a cutthroat company that will ban you the millisecond you have negative currency even stupider. Especially considering how that removes the basic logic of, if we're banning based off of refunds, why would they not have a system in place to track which account refunds? You know, like every other gacha game does? There was also misinfo pertaining to the bugs within the game. People tried to make the game seem like it was coded even worse than it was. Now, some of the bugs people caught out were true, like being able to use Yinlin in her trial before her banner started by simply swapping your system time is true from what I've seen. But then some try to say that since most of the data is stored client-side, you can easily manipulate the game to deal millions of damage with every hit. And like, really? What do you gain from making that up? Who is gonna believe you? Now, okay, there's more of these stories I could talk about, but long story short, this fandom war was filled to the brim with misinformation. People saying anything they possibly could to paint the other community in a bad light. And here's the thing. I feel like this shouldn't need to be said, yet here I am feeling the necessity of relaying common sense. Guys, gals, anyone in between or out-tween, it's such a waste of time to engage in fandom wars. People treat this shit like a full-time job. You actively see them in the trenches trying to bring down competing fandoms. Upon hearing the name of a rival fandom, some feel they need to say everything wrong about it to prop up their own. And if you dare to insult whatever they're obsessed about, it's as if you insulted them yourself. People take insults about the media they love as personal attacks. I wish I was joking, but that is just the truth. Honestly, you know what? Let me give you an example. I remember a long time ago I streamed my experience with returning to Genshin for Sumeru after having dropped it a bit after launch. Now, in that stream, I was joking with my chat about the game being miserable as the new player experience in Genshin is abominable. And by the end of it, I said how I found it boring, how from my playtime, I just didn't like the game. You know what the comments of that stream had to say? That I hated the game and played it just to shit talk it, how it was arrogant to do so, and I also showed why the Arknights fandom was terrible, as apparently I represent the entire Arknights fandom. But people hated me because I skipped through the story of Liyue and said the combat was boring. Nobody tried to say why my criticism of the game was invalid, that the gameplay was boring. I didn't have any opinions on the story as I skipped it, so it wouldn't have been fair to say anything on that front. Though some took the gameplay criticism as a personal attack, where this person who hates Genshin came in here just to shit talk the amazing game that it is, how I never gave it a fair shot. Now, if someone is saying criticisms about something, it's reasonable to say why you disagree with it. But nobody was doing that. They were just mad about my opinion and viewed me as a Genshin hater, a title worse than being a war criminal. People didn't care to see what my fault with the game was and just wanted to shit talk me for insulting it. And I guarantee you that from this video, more will think that I hate Genshin as I called it the dumb shit I saw from the fandom, even though I've always tried to say that these topics do not represent everyone within a community. So before the title of Genshin hater is put on me, let me say this. From when that stream was done, I have since played in the thousands of hours of Genshin. And yes, you should feel bad for me saying that. Please, pray for me. Now, if you look at my account, I have really well-built teams, 100% exploration in way too many zones, and a Wanderer with stats that put him in the top 4% of Wanderer hypercarries worldwide. And yes, by virtue of the fact that I know of a website that can take your character's data and show how your stats are compared to other players shows you how much the brain rot of this game has consumed me. I played this game more than long-term fans have, so you may ask yourself, has my opinion on the game changed since I streamed it back then? Have the thousands of hours cured my brain of the Genshin hater bias? Not in the slightest. I agree with everything I said in that stream. The combat is boring as shit, especially for new players when you have no builds going on or team synergy. Yo, fuck, this was my team in the stream. I had no other interesting characters to use. Why were people surprised I thought the combat was ass? Now after hearing that, picture this for me. If I gave out this criticism after saying how much I played the game, would the response be different? Would there be less people mad at me? The answer is yes, but not because of the fact that I have played more of the game. You may think that the criticism gets more valid due to my thousands of hours of playing Genshin, and that is true. However, my criticism being valid or not isn't why people were shitting on me. As I said, no one really tried to break down why the criticism was bad. And in fact, my perspective that the gameplay is boring, especially for new players, isn't rare to see at all. I've heard many Genshin creators say the same exact thing. So the reason people were mad isn't because of my criticism, it's because an outsider of the game was the one saying it, especially one that was an Arknights fan. If I was known as a Genshin fan who made countless videos on it, people would have viewed that criticism as a discussion for the game to get better. But since my reputation for the people in the comments there was Arknights player, anything I had to say was invalid. So much so that people compared the gameplay in Genshin to Arknights to show why I was wrong. As that makes perfect sense for two games of different genres. Can't wait to show the gameplay of Doom in my essay detailing why Danganronpa is literally the worst game ever. Though that is at large the mindset of fandoms. People take it as personal attacks for an outsider to shit talk what they love, even if the criticism itself is valid. So to put it simply, it's tribalism. Either you're with us or you're against us. And I think that perspective is so damn stupid. Criticism of something only makes it improve. So long as it's built on a solid foundation and not just making shit up, it's valuable to hear. I want to see criticism about the things I love, either so they can improve or because that discussion interests me. Yo, tell me why Kingdom Hearts is an absolute mess within how it presents its story. Give me a 3-hour-long video essay about how Bungie is hell-bent on torturing the Destiny player base with every stupid decision they make. Fuck, tell me why Danganronpa is the cringiest shit you've seen in a minute. Let's talk about how Arknight's story feels bloated to where I'm 99% sure the writers have an inflation fetish, or how power creep is hurting the game. I make a ton of videos about Limbus, let's bring up how the gameplay is so simple to where brain-dead choosing meta picks with no synergy is enough to clear the hardest content in the game. I've said this a lot and I'll say it again. If you love something, you need to criticize it. That's how it becomes better. Nothing is improved by having a fandom so hell-bent on stopping others from saying anything negative about what they love. That's how you make an echo chamber. And we don't need to take this tribalism to the length of hating on anyone saying why they love a game that's a competitor. I enjoy hearing people talk about why they're passionate for a piece of media. Yap about why Devil May Cry has some of the best combat. Shit, tell me ad nauseum about how Steins Gate is one of the few stories that was able to integrate time travel without any major plot holes. A video essay on how Nier Automata is the perfect human fable? Yo shit, time to cook up some food and watch that. Yet some people in a fandom will look at Palworld popping off and shore up full-blown defenses in protection of Pokemon's honor. It's childish. If someone is giving criticism about what you love, listen to them. You might not agree, but you don't gotta hate them for what they say. End of the day, it's someone's opinion on a video game. Your life is still functioning, you'll live. Conversely, if someone loves something, let them enjoy it. Even if it quote-unquote competes with the thing you love, what's it matter? Especially when you see the developers of these games actively enjoying the other. Hell, I saw a Genshin developer streaming Wuthering Waves as people in each fandom tried to depict the other as either the devil or the worst game in existence. It even reminds me of the small wars between the Final Fantasy XIV community and the World of Warcraft community. Those happened, yet you look into the development of Final Fantasy XIV and the director of it told the developers to play WoW and see where they excelled so they can make FF14 better. And the result? One of the most beloved MMOs out there. Current expansion not included as reviews are mixed about it, though I'd say it's a 7 out of 10. I liked it. But I see the criticisms about it and see where people are coming from. Even if someone despises it, I ain't gonna be foaming at the mouth in anger against them. I might agree with some stuff they gotta say. It reminds me of when some WoW players were saying Final Fantasy XIV is dumbass weeb shit. Then after Blizzard shit the bed on WoW in between sexually harassing their workers, some of those people went to play Final Fantasy XIV, and they ended up loving the game. I don't see why some people believe it impossible to think that way, of just playing both. Wuthering Waves or Genshin? Let's play them both, why not? Palworld or Pokemon? We haven't gotten a mainline Pokemon game in over a year, shit, sign me up. And the truth is, most people have this perspective. It's just a few that are somehow radicalized within a fandom who try to perpetuate a campaign about why the other is terrible, making sure to never hear a bit of good from the fandom as playing it would be blasphemous. It's dumb. Legitimately, just enjoy what you love and criticize it where the need arises. Hell, that's what this video is about too. Every game I brought up in it, I have played for probably way too long. Pokemon Diamond was the second game I ever played, and Soul Silver is the game I've played the most. Yo shit, in one of my playthroughs, I spent 500 hours shiny hunting for our Ninetales. I should not be saying that with as much pride as I currently am. But I also did get the shiny, so I'm still kinda happy about that. Palworld I played on release and I plan to jump back into it soon. Genshin I've already said, and Wuthering Waves I might as well be addicted to. I'm already at Union level 53 and have most of the map explored, which is why I harshly criticized it, as I want the game to get better where I think it fails. Hell, I made a video where I brought up how the writing in it is ass, cause I know Kurogame could do better. Dear God, they wrote Surviving Lusum. And at large, I brought these topics up because whilst I love the games, if I see the community acting in a malicious or stupid way, I'm gonna call that out. I don't like seeing people blindly defend something or hate on something else if it fills the narrative in their head of this thing bad. I just feel like it's also childish. You know, remember when early on in the days of Minecraft and Terraria's lifespans, there was some rivalry going on between the two fandoms. Some people saying why Minecraft is worse because the gameplay is the equivalent to working out your index finger, and how Terraria is better because their bosses don't get defeated by some stupid ass beds. But before the rivalry could really grow, Mojang and Realogic literally put shoutouts to the other game in their own game. Now you look at the two communities and they're really damn chill. Why can't more fandoms be like that? Yo, people act like two legends cannot coexist, and barring how terribly that line has aged, let's pull a comparison to how fandoms are nowadays. So remember in 2022 when God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring were both nominated for Game of the Year? When Elden Ring won, some God of War fans were mad because Ragnarok was a really damn good game, so they thought it was snuffed. And after seeing it lose, some of those people went on to try and trash Elden Ring if at all possible, saying how the game was just terrible or whatever the fuck. But in actuality, what does it matter? God of War winning or losing Game of the Year shouldn't matter for someone's personal experience. If the plot in it hit hard for you, if you love it, what does a sheet of paper on a glittery stage have to change it? The answer is nothing. All the shit I brought up, it's all pointless. Someone else's opinion shouldn't matter that much for something so inconsequential. Again, if they're saying something factually wrong and passing it off as criticism, then there's reason to correct them. But if somebody just ain't feeling a piece of media, there's no reason to shore up the defenses as if their words are a personal insult. Yeah, my favorite game of all time is Persona 3. The messages in it have hit incredibly hard for me, and I just love what the story represents. I think it's a beautiful game. But if someone said, I don't like self-insert protagonists or the anime style of it, so I don't think I'm gonna play it, then that's fair. I'll still love it, but everyone has their own taste, so there's no reason to start shit-talking them. So to put a cap on it, fandom wars are an exercise in the most pointless battles the world has ever seen, where people will make up so many lies about a rival fandom, pressure real people who aren't interested in the fiction they love to play it, or you'll have motherfuckers look at a masterpiece of a game and try to explain why it's the worst digital creation mankind has ever thought of, when in reality, you should just enjoy what you love and let others do the same. There's no reason to really complicate things further.